Hello, and welcome back to Reddit Stories with Mio. Tonight we have a scary story from the r/scary stories subreddit, posted by the Reddit user Putinator. The title of the story is My Son's Teacher Has Been Giving Him Some Strange Homework. Let's begin. I recently had to move to another city because of work. My wife, my 9-year-old son Dylan, and I had to leave our quiet life behind and start over in a much busier place. It was a hard change for all of us, but I kept telling myself it would be worth it for the pay raise. After about a month, things finally seemed to be settling down. My wife found a new job she liked. Dylan had adjusted to his new school, made a few friends, and seemed to really like his teacher, Mrs. Wagner. She was young, friendly, and from everything I saw at first, perfectly normal. Every night, Dylan came home with some kind of homework. Usually it was something simple. He might have to ask us about our jobs, or research his favorite animal, or fill out an easy worksheet. Nothing unusual, nothing that would take more than half an hour. Then one night, during Dylan's third week in that class, he came home looking upset. I asked him what was wrong, and he told me everything was fine. I asked what his homework was, and he said he didn't have any. That immediately struck me as odd, because Mrs. Wagner had assigned homework every single night up to that point. Dylan went straight to his room and shut the door behind him. He usually never closed it. He stayed in there most of the evening, only coming out for dinner, at the table. He seemed more like himself again. He joked around, talked normally, and for a little while I thought maybe I had imagined the whole thing. But after dinner he went right back to his room, shut the door again, and stayed there. A couple of hours later, I went in to tell him it was time for bed. When I opened the door, I found him asleep at his desk, slumped over his workbook. I walked over to wake him up gently, and that was when I saw what had been written at the top of the page. Would I miss my parents if I no longer lived with them? I just stood there staring at it. It was such a bizarre question to give to a group of 9-year-olds, but then I kept reading what Dylan had written underneath. He wrote that he would miss his mom and dad very much. He wrote that he loved us, and that we helped him with everything. Then he wrote something that made my blood run cold. He said he would probably love someone else just as much if he had to, like Mrs. Wagner had been saying that day. Those words hit me like a brick. What exactly had she been telling him? Why was she saying things like that to my son? I decided not to tell my wife that night. I know that sounds stupid now, but I told myself I would talk to Mrs. Wagner first and get an explanation before I frightened anyone else. The next morning, I walked Dylan into school and went straight to the classroom with him. Mrs. Wagner was there alone, smiling when she saw me. I asked her directly about the assignment and told her I was concerned. She just laughed it off. She told me that she had been teaching the kids that parents love and protect them, but also that there are other people who could help them if they ever needed it. I wasn't satisfied with that answer, and I was about to press her further when the rest of the class walked in. They came in 2 perfect rows and greeted her one by one. Every single child was unnaturally well-behaved. Too well-behaved. Dylan went and sat beside another student, and the moment he did, his entire posture changed. He sat straighter. His eyes widened. He stared straight ahead. Then I noticed every single child in that room was staring at the exact same place. At Mrs. Wagner. I left with a bad feeling in my gut. Later that day, I picked Dylan up from school myself. Every other child came charging out of the gate laughing and shouting, but Mrs. Wagner's class came out in a neat line, walking in time with each other. Dylan got into the car, said almost nothing, and stared straight ahead the whole drive home. The moment we got inside, he went straight to his room and shut the door again. At that point, I knew something was very wrong. When my wife got home, I sat her down and told her everything I had seen. She listened quietly, getting more worried with every word. Then she said maybe Dylan would open up more if she talked to him instead. I agreed. 15 minutes later, Dylan walked into the living room holding his small workbook. He looked calm, almost too calm. He asked me if I could help him with his homework. I said of course and held out my hand. He gave me the workbook. Written at the top of the page was that night's assignment. Research the best way to inject your parents with anesthetic? I barely finished reading the sentence before I felt a sharp pain in my neck. I looked down and saw a needle sticking out of the side of it. Dylan was holding the syringe with a blank expression on his face. Everything started going black. The last thing I remember is Dylan staring down at me while I collapsed onto the floor. I don't know how long I was unconscious. When I woke up, my wife was screaming. She kept shouting that Dylan was gone. Then I saw the tiny puncture mark on her neck and realized she had been injected too. I tried to stand up, but the drug hadn't fully worn off. I could barely move. I managed to get my phone out and call the police. They told me they would send officers and start looking for Dylan immediately. Then I checked the time. It was already 9 in the morning. I called the school hoping maybe Dylan had gone there. The woman who answered told me they hadn't seen him at all that day. Then she added something that made everything even worse. No one from Mrs. Wagner's class had shown up. And Mrs. Wagner herself was absent too. That was 3 weeks ago. Dylan is still missing. So are Mrs. Wagner and every single child from her class. Every parent has the same story. They were drugged by their own children, and when they woke up, their child was gone. No one knows where they went. No one knows if they are all together. No one knows what Mrs. Wagner was preparing them for. And no one knows whether those children were hypnotized, drugged, manipulated, or something far worse. What did you think of this story? What do you think Mrs. Wagner was really planning? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time.